Hey everyone, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2021 Jeep Gladiator, we're going to be showing you how to install the Roadmaster Stoplight switch kit. Before we do that though, let's check this out and talk about a couple of reasons on why you'd want to use something like this. There's really two primary instances on where you would need to use a stoplight switch like this here, and that is one of them, probably the most popular, is when you're setting up a flat tow or getting ready to pull your Gladiator behind your motorhome, and your supplemental braking system has an indicator light. That's where this would come into play. And another reason would be if you're setting up your Gladiator with a trailer brake controller, okay? And what this is actually going to do is either let your supplemental braking system know or your trailer brake controller know when the brake pedal is actually being applied in your Jeep. For those of you setting up a trailer brake controller, this is going to be required in just about every application. There might be a few exceptions if your Gladiator happens to have a factory tow package plug that's active. The brake controller could potentially pick up a brake signal from that. If not, that's where this would come into play. As far as the flat towing and setting up your supplemental braking system, there's two systems that I can think of right off the top of my head where this would work in conjunction with them. One of them would be the Roadmaster InvisiBrake, and the other one would be the Stay and Play Duo supplemental braking system. Whether you have the wireless Coach Link version or the standard version, this will come into play there. And what it's going to do for supplemental braking systems is send power to the indicator light. All right, so that indicator light will let you know when the brake pedal's getting pulled down and your braking system is being activated. And this will give you a true readout as well, meaning that whenever the pedal is actually going to move, that's when that indicator light will come on. So you'll have 100% confidence knowing that the pedal's actually getting pulled down in your Jeep and the system isn't just turning on. Because a lot of the systems you can wire up to where they'll still work, the indicator light will work without this, but it's just going to turn on if the system has power. So it's not actually telling you if that brake pedal's being pulled down. So this gives you a true, accurate reading, and something that's definitely worth setting up, at least in my opinion. The way it's going to work, it's really simple. This will have a custom fit bracket that bolts up to the Jeep, and this part here, this little plunger, is going to sit against the brake pedal arm in your Jeep. So say if my finger's that brake pedal arm, it'll be sitting like this when the brake pedal is just in its normal position, and then once that brake pedal starts to move and get pushed down, the plunger will come out, closing the switch and allowing that power to get sent to the light or the trailer brake controller. Ultimately, this is going to be something you either need or don't. So the major takeaway, if you're doing a trailer brake controller, chances are pretty good you're going to need to use this, or when you're setting up that flat tow and using that Roadmaster InvisiBrake or Stay and Play Duo supplemental braking system. I'm sure there's others out there as well. This is something that you're going to need. So just go ahead and pick it up and it'll give you better performance out of your supplemental braking system. As far as the installation goes, it's really not too bad, being that it's a custom fit part. The bracket's already made for you and it's pretty easy to get set up. I definitely recommend doing this at the same time you're doing your braking system, if that's what you are going to be doing while you're already down under the dash and everything. Because the hardest part, it's a little tight under there, working under the dash, but something you do one time. And the way I set these up is using an additional fuse holder. So that's something you can grab as well if you want to set it up like I did. But with that said, why don't we go ahead and get started on it now. To begin our installation for our stoplight switch, we're doing this at the same time that we're doing our supplemental braking system, which is what I recommend. Or if not, let's say if you're doing this for a brake controller or something like that, it's going to be set up essentially the same way for the most part. So the area that we're going to be working is right underneath the driver's side dash. We want to remove this panel here, and this essentially just pops right off, so you can just work it from the corners and get it removed. It gives us a lot more room to work and see what's going on. We can now grab our bracket, and where it comes out and bends down, that's where our stoplight switch is going to be installed. So we'll remove the nut here. We'll push through it like that. And we'll just snug this one down by hand on the other side. And the way that this is actually going to work is pretty simple. So this switch is going to be normally open. That's how you'd want it. So say if my finger was the brake pedal arm, the way that we set this up is when the brake pedal's not being pushed down or nothing, it's just in its natural position. You want this plunger to essentially be almost completely pushed in. All right, so about like that. And how you want to adjust it is by turning these nuts, okay? So you can pull it out more or push it further in to find that positioning. And so when that brake pedal is going to be getting pulled or pushed down, that plunger will start to move out, and when that happens, it connects the two terminals inside of the switch, closing the switch and letting the power flow through it. And so that's how you're going to want to set it up. I just explain it now as opposed to on the vehicle. It's just so hard to see once it's up there. And you know, this nut, I believe, is a 17 millimeter, and that one is a 14. We'll grab the two wires that come with the switch, a red and a green, and kind of prep the end. So on one end, I crimped on a butt connector and a spade terminal. Really, you know, for those of you at home, I just have a bunch of these laying around. I figure I use them up. You can just use another butt connector there. That's fine. Butt connector on the other end. And I'll strip that end back too. Twist that wire. Crimp on this butt connector. And then I strip back the ends of the wires here coming off of our switch. With these, I stripped them long because the wires are kind of thin, and just folding them in half just to give that this little bit larger butt connector a better bite. And I'm just going to hook them up. So it don't matter what color wire goes where, as long as you got them both hooked up. We're ready to get our bracket and switch assembly actually bolted to our Jeep now. And you know, under the dash where the computer box is mounted up, on each side of it, you're gonna see a screw. And that's what we're gonna utilize to actually mount up a bracket. And so what I'll do, the screws have an 8 millimeter head. I'll pull them out, put the switch bracket up there, and reinstall the bolts. And just because there's not a lot of space here, I'll go ahead and do that and show you how it turned out. I got our bracket installed, just like we talked about, really nothing to it. You are able to kind of slide it from side to side, so before you tighten the bolts down, make sure that your switch is actually going to line up with your brake pedal arm. From there, we got our wiring hooked up. So the red wire coming from the stoplight switch, I hooked that up to the red wire from our wireless transmitter for our Stay and Play Duo braking system. This is just going to depend on how you're using the switch. You know, if you got another braking system that has an indicator light, just check the instructions. It'll tell you what to do. And for that particular system, or if you're using this for a trailer brake controller, You know, this red wire is what you'd want to hook up to. Usually 9 times out of 10, the red wire from your brake controller harness. Essentially, this is the cold side of the brake light switch now. So the green wire, I have that hooked up to a length of black wire. This is extra that you'll need to grab, 6 to 8 foot of it. And I have this running through the firewall into the engine compartment. That way we can run it over to the battery. That wire runs over here towards the battery, along through here, where I have it connected to a fuse holder. So I just used a butt connector to pair them together. Other end of the fuse holder, crimped on a ring terminal. Remove the nut with a 12mm, put the ring terminal over it, tighten it back down. And that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the Roadmaster Stoplight Switch Kit on our 2021 Jeep Gladiator.